All right, man. So my apologies for my location right now. I still have a more professional setup going on. I'm just working on the accommodations. Um, but I hope that's not too distracting or anything.
No,
Um,
absolutely fine.
all right, good, good. So you sent me your food logs. I took some time and I looked them over, as I always like to before our sessions. So I looked those through, and it looks like you're still having a little bit of trouble with both the consistency of the wake up time and just sleeping in general. Your sleep block a little bit shaky. But I also noticed you've the last couple days started doing your wind down routine, which
Mhm.
we talked about and we touched on, but it wasn't part of your goals. I'm
Mhm.
curious, has that helped with getting your sleep in the last, I think it was like 3 days you've been doing that on some level?
But yeah, I definitely find it helps with the quality of my sleep, the way I feel when I wake up in the morning. Yeah, just kind of being intentional about that is really helped me too. Cause like I actually take the time before I shut my workstation down, like, okay, what do I have to do tomorrow? So I write myself a couple bullet points, and then it's like, okay, now I'm getting into bed mode. All this stuff gets put aside. You know what I mean? Whereas before it was just kind of like not even really consciously thinking about it. I'm tired, shut it down, go to sleep. So yeah, I
Right,
definitely.
right. Yeah, and I noticed that in your notes in on the food logs that the 2 days you seem to have noted the biggest disturbance in your wake up was the one day that you were later in your wake up time and the one day that before your normal sleep block you happened to have fallen asleep. So you
Mhm.
woke up, it looks like you spent about an hour probably just like shutting things off, getting things, and then went back to sleep. And that either end of that tends to mess with your whole thing, right? You kind of have experienced that now just the last week.
Yeah, it's why I don't take naps. It messes with my head too much. But
No,
that's
I hear you.
I'm used to waking up with a startle. You know what I mean? Almost like waking up in like shock mode. But I've noticed since I've been getting up consistently, and now since I'm trying to be more mindful about my wind down routine and my morning routine, I'm noticing I don't really have that much anymore. I wake up slowly before my alarm, usually just kind of lay there for a minute and get up and go. So,
Good. I'm glad it's starting to smooth out already, and it's only been a couple of weeks,
mhm.
and it's more stable, but it still can is going to become even more so, I think, as we go along here, especially as we start including other things in the future. I think for now, based on your food logs,
Mhm.
we'll stick with that as far as sleep goes. We're still going to stick with the just making that consistent because there's still a little fluctuation every just couple
Mhm.
of days. It's not like you've gone a full week or anything with a solid. So we're still going to focus on that for the sleep. Does that sound reasonable to you?
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. And your environment is still working for you and everything?
Yeah.
It's and the regular sleep time has is continuing to help you sleep through subtler disturbances that you didn't used to?
Yep.
Good. Good. I'm glad to hear that, man. I just wanted to double check and make sure, unless you have anything more you want to talk about in regards to the sleep that you've been having, I'd like to turn our conversation more towards what you've been eating. Do you have anything else you want to talk about as far as sleep?
No.
Okay, okay, cool. So, as far as your meals go, it looks like you have definitely been working on getting more food later in your day because before you were just pretty much eating breakfast and coffee, drinking
With that.
coffee.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, so it looks like you're doing more. Um, don't stress out too much. I see, there's some junk food on there and stuff, but right now we're just happy that you're eating a little more. One not fully calorie dense meal a day, because I don't want to say one meal a day isn't enough. You can certainly pack enough into one meal, but not the kind of meals you were eating. That's
Right.
that's a normal like couple eggs breakfast. That's not enough to sustain you.
Right.
But now you're eating a regular dinner at least. at least, right? On all, but I think I saw like 1 or 2 food logs, and things happen, right? Like, let's not get too hard on ourselves here. I hope you're not being too hard on yourself. You did meal prep a little bit there, I saw. And that is that making it a little easier to be able to have something in the fridge or wherever that you can just grab that's a meal with your protein and your carbs and everything in it?
Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there. I still got some progress to make on that front, but now
It
this
just doesn't like naturally occur to you,
pretty much, yeah.
right? Yeah.
Like I've
Have you
only
tried an alarm?
for like what mealtime.
Yeah, because I know it sounds ridiculous, but I have to do that for myself because I'm the
Mhm.
same way. It doesn't always naturally occur to me, especially when I'm working on something and getting really hyper focused on it. Which, because we kind of work together too, I know you've been in a very focused work mode, at least based on the results of it.
Mhm.
Um, so it might be helpful to just set an alarm, not even at the time, but like 15 to 30 minutes before, because you got to consider you're going to need to cook and you're going to, probably
Right.
go and get A&E and, you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
all that. So maybe 15 to 30 minutes before whatever time you would like your dinner to be at in during the
Right.
day.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. And then like the other trouble I was talking about was basically just like meal planning issues. You know what I mean? It's I've only done it really one time. I've gone shopping with a meal plan and a grocery list and everything. So obviously I see that getting better every time as well. The stress of not knowing what I need to get at the store when I go and just impulse buying and then forgetting half of what I need and not getting enough meal stuff and you know what I mean, like all that added stress that I was putting on myself with food, it's starting to ease already just from one month or one couple week segment of actually planning and being intentional about it.
That's
So
great.
yeah.
And I think definitely it'll get easier, you won't, you said yourself, you only have done it once. The fact that you did it that first time is the first and hardest often step, right? So like,
Yeah.
great. That's great. No matter how it turned out, you took the steps and got it done.
I don't think I see my own progress sometimes, so I appreciate you pointing that out. Every once in a while, I gotta remind myself to, give myself the old pat on the back.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Especially with so many things you're working on, sometimes you forget to take account of the progress being made because there's always more work to be done. But yeah, definitely got to take that moment, and congratulate yourself because that's
Thank
progress. Any progress is good,
you. Mm,
and
absolutely.
as we've talked about multiple times, in work and in our sessions, small is better, actually. The
Mm,
large leaps often you backslide from at some point. So it all the more, even though that's the best way, in my opinion, to progress, it also does lead to the loss of sight of the progress at times. So certainly I understand that. I myself have the same problem, man. We'll continue our sessions and it'll just get easier, any questions you have between sessions, write them down. Let me know, man. And if they have to do with meal planning, we'll work them out together if you can't figure them out yourself. You're not alone in this, right? So it's definitely going to get better.
absolutely. And I mean, in other areas too, kind of aside from just our basic training goals, the accountability factor, like learning how to kind of be vulnerable with somebody and talk about some of these things that I struggle with, because it's definitely not easy for me to to speak on my struggles, as I'm sure you can understand. So, the journaling and note taking that you suggested along with the food log has really helped. Just being able to go back a couple weeks and like, oh man, that's where my head was at that day, and like not there anymore. This is what I was stressing out about, and all of these things are done now. So, yeah, man. I mean, I've been making some progress in some areas that I've really kind of been butting my head up against the wall with trying to figure it out myself. So, I really appreciate the direction.
Glad to have helped you. I really am. I think that's great. And throughout the whole journey of improvement, these are all things that I think will help. With a lot of the things we're talking about right here, such as being able to take a moment and recognize progress. It's a lot easier when you have those notes to go back on, like you just said, and be like, oh, that's where I didn't even remember that's where I was. Didn't feel like I made any, but I must have because I'm not there anymore.
Absolutely.
I saw on your earlier food logs, you were mentioning how you felt waking up. The last couple you didn't really mention, so I just wanted to ask, how has your energy levels been the last couple of days, and specifically when you wake up?
It's been pretty good actually. I'm trying not to take on breaking too many habits at once. But one thing I've really been trying to work on is like not jumping right into something when I wake up. Like I have like a bad habit and urge to just jump right on my phone and start scrolling or reading news stories, and I'm starting to realize that's just like some type of distraction that I'm allowing myself. I'm either like in freeze mode or stressed out or what. So I'm trying to just break that habit, breathe, or get up and get in the shower or something other than that.
We can go into the mechanisms that are at play in a scenario exactly like that and recommendations if you'd like, if you'd find that helpful.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So, first of all, the scrolling and the urge to like jump right into that when you wake up, right? That's not a downfall or a weakness of yours, right?
Mm,
First, let's just get that out of the way. That's the dopamine system desiring more. That's what scrolling through social media gives you. That's how they're designed to,
mhm.
and we both have histories of addictive personalities, addictive natures, sorry, and addictive, therefore addictive personalities. So it
Yeah.
really can affect us. I think I want to say that recognizing that and saying, I think that's an important one to break. I agree with. I think that is. And I do have some recommendations there for you. But first, I just want to talk a little bit about why that was such a smart thing for you to recognize yourself a little more detailed, though.
Okay.
And so that is absolutely great because it is true. Jumping into things, right? First thing in the morning, not necessarily productivity wise,
Mhm.
but like jumping into screens, jumping into other people's stuff, right? It is a good idea to give yourself a little quiet wind up time, half hour after you wake up without actually delving into other things, kind of like the wind down, right? But to wake up, and that way you have the time to do it on your own without other influences, without suddenly getting that shock like so many news stories, especially right now, will do to you. Give yourself that half hour. I'm not laughing at the give yourself. I'm laughing at
No,
the thought of
I know
news stories
exactly what
right
you
now, just
Yeah.
so we're clear. I
No,
don't
I
want you
got
to,
you.
but yes, so and that can definitely throughout your day, I've found, at least for myself, can impact your energy levels, right? Because if I run into, for instance, using the example we were just talking about, a news story that gets me all depressed or worked up, I might feel energized and stimulated in that moment, but now most of the rest of my day I'm either angry or depressed. And so at some point my levels crash. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely a great thing I think to do. I also want to say though, jumping into, if you have the natural inclination and energy levels to right after waking do things, it's perfectly fine to jump right into like a little bit of work or something productive, right? Because just like jumping into the social media can stick with you for the rest of the day, so can jumping into something productive right away. A little bit
Mhm.
of productivity before you go to breakfast can be a good thing. It can set you up for more higher energies and productivity throughout your day.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Okay.
And while I don't think it's something you necessarily have to worry about this moment, in the longer run, the same is true for like days that you have to take off where you're like, okay, I've been working for 3 weeks straight. I need a fucking day where I do nothing. wake up, actually do nothing for the first half hour, so that you're more set into that chill level for the day.
It's funny because even I've talked about in some of my own personal videos, like the importance of, winding down. So you plant the suggestions that you want in your sleep and then waking up and patterning your day because that's the most important time of your day. So I'm just having a little trouble implementing it myself. Practice what you preach. But
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, like, for me, that's why my morning routine, first thing when I wake up, first thing on my list, it's not like do this or do that, like productive or
Mhm.
even spiritual. It's, at least right now, because it's colder seasons, it's start a fire and get my tea going. That's it. That's my first thing in the day.
Right.
Two things that are low key. They're not really anything more than just basic, but it's something for me also to check off on the
Mhm.
list so I can be like, okay, I did something. I'm headed towards my day, right? And then to go a little bit more into just my personal, then I have on my list, I can pull it up right here for you actually, so I can read this. So I'm not even messing it up at all. I keep it on my phone. I use an app called Focus to Do, which also has a Pomodoro feature. So my morning routine list, 8 things. So tea and fires, and then I get something to eat. I have 2 different feeding times in my morning routine because my morning routine takes about 3 hours. So I do the tea and fires, and then I eat something, either my breakfast, which is usually eggs and like toast with butter, or eggs in a muffin, or eggs in something carb. And then I tend my gardens because I have the growing shelves in here.
Mhm.
So even in the winter, I have some plants that I tend. That's just a nice thing, easy thing again. And for me, is rejuvenating. It's spiritually fulfilling, to be tending some plants early in the morning, you know.
Absolutely.
And then after that, I do a little bit of sweeping. Just sweep the house at all if it needs it. Make sure it's on my list. Some days I don't even do it, but it makes me check it. Okay, do I need to do that today? Because that's another simple thing, kind of like eating, that most people might just do naturally. It doesn't even occur to me. So it's on my list, so it occurs to me, so that I make sure I'm checking it at least. And then I do my martial arts routine, right? Usually after my martial arts routine, I don't jump to the next thing. That's part of the routine. I just understand between certain things, there's gonna be a little gap. You're not gonna go right from boom, boom. There's gonna be a little ease into it, a little transition time, even if it's just 15, 20 minutes, it can be. Up to that, I'd say like no longer. At that point, you're kind of out of routine, but 15 to 20 minutes, especially after something like a training routine that just took 45 minutes of martial arts and this and that, I'm a little exhausted, catching my breath, letting the energy come back and like the muscles settle down I mean, yes, I stretched and all that, but still like sit down for a minute, actually let
Mhm.
it rejuvenate a little before I go and start walking around all over the place and moving things. And
Yep.
anyways, so I do that, and then after that, I start the coffee because by that time I get up really early, as you know, in the morning. By that
Mhm.
time, other people are gonna be getting up soon. So I usually start the coffee. With the coffee, I then make my protein shake, which again, I sometimes switch my breakfast and my protein shake back and forth. It kind of depends on the day. But then after that, I'm feeling much more awake at this point because one, I got moving and ate, but I also just got some good shot of caffeine finally. So at
Mhm.
that point, I hit my emails and my flashcards every day. And then again, at that point, I'll usually sit around for a little bit, not for energy's sake, because I just absorbed a little shit in my brain, let the brain settle a little, absorb it, think about it, mull it over. Then I head into my lifting routine. And for my lifting routine, I do my hygiene stuff. That's just automatic for me at this point. But that's the end of my morning routine. That's my whole like 3 hour, 4 hour morning routine.
Now, and so like, how long did it take you to like get to that point or this point? And like, how or where did you start? Kind of, does that make sense? Like, you
Well,
trying.
it took me, I'm still developing it, right? I still switch it around. Especially at this point, it's not always development. Sometimes it's like, for instance, tea and fires. That just got added a couple weeks ago because the
Mhm.
cold season got here. Before that, I had coffee and protein shake right there, and my breakfast was like 4 slots up. Because again, sometimes I switch them. That made more sense with just the warmer weather and blah 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 blah, the earlier sunrises. So I was going jogging earlier in the morning and it wasn't cold. So like all these other things. So nowadays it kind of shifts, not
Mm,
just progresses. But it took me years, dude. I mean, I've been doing this for over a decade. Even this is one of the first things I kind of got into just
mm,
by habit. That's just who I am. I like ritual. I like daily rituals. So yeah, I started developing it early 20s. This is over a decade of development. But when I
mm.
started it, it was like two or three things.
Okay.
It was, if I remember correctly, again, because this was over 10 years ago, and at the time I worked a night shift, right? So my wake up time wasn't super early in the morning. It was at like 9 o'clock in the morning. I would wake up, even then, bathroom, putz around for a half hour or so, just because, like, I don't know about you, I'm always aware. Like when I wake up, I am fully like aware of what's going on in my room and blah blah blah. That doesn't mean my thought processes are up to speed though. Like,
Mm,
yes, I'm already thinking and oh shit, what about this and worries and all this stuff. But like to get the focus and the fluid thoughts going takes a little more time. So a half hour or so has always been like first thing in the morning. For instance, now it's my tea and fires and go use the toilet. Like that usually takes 15 minutes to a half hour. Just
mm.
because again, you're also moving slower. I just woke up. This is something myself I only learned in the last year. I intentionally move slower when I first wake up because I'm a very high energy person. I wake up and my body wants to fucking go right from the jump. I'm ready to go. So I intentionally move a little slower at the beginning of my day. Again, let the body also wake up. So yeah, half hour to do that. Then I would cook something, which back then I say cook, it wasn't really cooking. And then from there, you let it digest. I would watch something.
Mhm.
Um, Usually I would watch like YouTube. Back then I was just getting started, and I didn't have a trainer or anything. Didn't have the fucking money for one, nothing like that. So I needed to learn myself. So I would do that, and then I would go and I'd shake up my pre-workout after maybe a half hour of that, letting the food digest and all this, and I go in and shake up my pre-workout. You drink the pre-workout, and I go in the other room because I had all my equipment. I lived in a basement, and like I had my bedroom, and then there was like the storage room, which was like dirt floor and stuff. And in
Mhm.
there, I had a all my weights and a open space that I kept all the storage out of because I had a freestanding bag, so I'd kick around the freestanding bag. Yeah, so that was where I started and how I started with a morning routine. And then from there, usually I would actually, because when you're just getting started, it's stressful and it takes a lot of energy. I would usually like take a freaking nap because I didn't work until night shift. So it was usually like 11 o'clock and 11 to noon at that time. I would go to sleep
Mhm.
for like an hour and a half. I would take a freaking nap at that point, wake up, and now I got to get ready for work. And that was my life. 2, 3 years, that was my life. And honestly, I miss it. That was fucking awesome. That's my origins of wake up routine. Um,
Okay.
it was nothing special. It didn't have 8 steps to it. No little tiny considerations in there. Just a couple of big important things to get done. And in between, doing what I had to do to keep myself motivated to do it.
Okay. No doubt. That really hit with me too. Like, why does uh, why does my routine have to like work against myself? Why can't I work with
Absolutely.
myself?
No, it should
Mm,
work with you. It should
yeah.
absolutely. And we hadn't really gotten to a wake up or wind down routine yet.
Mm,
That's something we can do together, certainly. But for now, with you working on the goals you're working on, I wasn't gonna go into it too much with you. But if you're trying to on your own make one, I would say just pick 2 or 3 things. And again, keep in mind, like I told you with when I started, you don't have to be like, all right, I finished that, I gotta jump to that. Give yourself 5 minutes at least to like, you don't have to if you're feeling like, all right, I can jump right into that. By all means, do it. But don't like force it, not like, okay, I gotta hit that now. And there's nothing wrong with giving yourself within that within any schedule, even once you're setting up more intricate, like full day plans and stuff. Between things, you need to not plan every single second. You need to have time for transit, time for shitting, time for eating, time for regular human things. I get the urge not to. I myself still to this day struggle to accept that in myself on the day to day. I know it intellectually. It doesn't mean that it's easy to accept when you're used to certain things being said or expected or done or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
or you're in crisis mode, so you feel like every second counts,
Mm-hmm.
which is our default. So, but
Yeah.
it's okay, man. Take a breather. You know, if you need to, throw a little breath work into your first couple of things. You know, if you enjoy it, a little box breathing there. You know, get your tea going, get something else started, and do your box breathing while you're waiting. Relax, relax.
Right.
You got shit going. You already did something. Relax. Your tea's brewing. Your coffee's brewing. Relax.
Mm. Yeah, no doubt. It's real easy to take all this like way too serious. And so I appreciate it because I've heard you say like celebrate the wins, which means take time and review my progress and have a little grace with myself. Just take some time, but also be directional, be intentional, move forward. And so
It's a hard line to tread.
mhm,
It is, no doubt. You know, because they are kind of counterintuitive with each other. You know, you don't expect them to go together. Um,
mhm,
yeah, it's to use the proper term, it's dichotomous. Um,
mhm,
so, but at the same time, a lot of things in life that are dichotomous tend to
absolutely.
actually work best together.
Yeah.
Um, you just got to know how to meld them. And that's the art form. That's not a formula. Well, I can't give you this is how it works. I can give you suggestions and you got to find how to make it work for you. And that's unfortunately that doesn't really have an expiration date. You
Mhm.
know, we change, and so how we handle things change needs to change with it.
Agreed. Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna elevate. You're gonna find, oh shit, that doesn't even touch me anymore, and it used to help.
Hmm.
Like, well, that's because you're more advanced now. You understand things on another level. That made sense to you then. It don't make sense to you now. It doesn't touch enough points for you anymore. You need to find something, in a sense, more, you know? Like, and it can be intimidating. But again, you got help. You're not alone. So for any goal adjustments, I would say just continue to work on you're up to 2 meals now a day, right? We're gonna set an alarm for that second one. Is that
Hmm.
correct?
Yep.
All right. So yeah, man. I would say stick with that and stick with the getting the wake up time as consistent as possible. Hopefully, what we've talked about here with the wake up routine will
Hmm.
help with that, right?
Yeah.
Um, is there any other questions you have now that we've covered more stuff? Has any other questions popped up for you?
No, I don't think so. I feel like this is good.
Okay.